You guys can come in. All right, so we're going to work on the upa. All right, I want to explain a bit about it. First, I want to give you the kind of the mechanics and the concepts, and then you'll just see it applied in different ways. Okay, I'm going to refer to my notes some. So some of my students know this. How many positions are there on the ground? Two. Right, you're either on top or you're on bottom. Right? If you're on top, you're either in the guard or you're not in the guard. If you're on bottom, you either have the guard or you don't have the guard. Okay. So a big part of jiu-jitsu, if you're playing on the bottom, is being able to go from the bottom to the top. What position am I in right now? I'm on bottom, right? For instance, when we were doing the leg locks, we were both on bottom, right? So if I never moved and he'd be on top, wouldn't he? Right? Same with an arm bar. That's one of the dangers, kind of the classic arm bar is he's here. If you lose, he gets on top. Okay? So we have four major ways, really two major ways, and two smaller ways to go from this bottom position to this top position. Right? I call these positive and negative movements. Okay? So positive movement is the upa. So I'm going in a progressive direction and turning over. Negative movement is standing in base, right? Instead of projecting forward with my outside leg, my inside leg is going underneath the here. That's standing in base, by the way. That's why when you come to class, you kind of go, yeah, I don't really care about this. You're missing one of the most important movements in all of grappling, which is the ability to turn to your knees without having to progress into something. Okay, so it could be on my elbow, it could be whatever. In the same way that I could be on my elbow, and some people call it like a hip heist or something. I just kind of classify it as an upa. By the way, does anybody know what upa means? Okay. No, it doesn't actually have a meaning. I asked Pedro Valenche one time, and he said in Brazil it was a way that parents would bounce their kids on their knees. They'd say upa, 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 upa. That's that bouncing, lifting. Okay. So something my guys know all the time, I talk about, if you want to accomplish something, you have to study the opposite. And if I want to escape an armbar, I have to understand how they do an armbar. Right? If I want to hold mount, I have to understand how he escapes mounts. If I want to escape, I want to understand how he holds mount. Or any bottom to top situation. So let's talk about mount. We're going to start in the mount. We'll see this in a few different positions. When he's mounted on me, I basically kind of have three ways that I'm going to escape. I'm literally just going to push him off and disconnect him from me. Right? I can't say this in England. Well, we're not in England anymore. The Mongo move. Right? I'm going to somehow start to put him back in the guard. Or I'm going to roll him over. I'm going to go from the bottom position to the top position. Does that make sense? Those are your three major situations. Okay? The last one was the upa. Now, let's talk about what we're doing with the upa in general in that situation. Okay, let me get you to pretend you're mounted on me. Here. No, pretend you're mounted. Oh, okay. So what the goal is in general, put your elbows on the mat. Is I'm going to drop one shoulder and lift the opposite hip, and he's basically going to do a forward roll. Okay. So there's a few important things, right? You remember we talked about this a little bit a while back. When maybe it was at your place and for this, what did I say my goal is when I'm on top?
Keep the hips level.
Because when I keep my hips level, I keep hip level. And his hips stay flat to the mat. It doesn't matter. He can't go to guard because he can't get on the side. He can't upa because this is not an upa. Right? At some point, I've got to turn. I've got to elevate one hip. So my goal is to make sure that I can at some point elevate one hip. And not necessarily to the side, but over one shoulder. So one shoulder is down, one hip is up, and then I'm going to connect him to me, forcing his body to do the same thing. Does that make sense? Okay. So we're going to come back to the concepts in a minute. We're going to go over a movement. This won't be the movement you do all the time, but it is a good movement to learn to drill this motion. Okay. Now, you talked in your seminar about this, and I preach this all the time. One of the things, it works sometimes, but one of the things I hate to see is people on bottom kind of doing this stuff. Because I'm not connected to anything. I have no power. That's why I flatten people out. They're trying to put me in the guard, or they're going like this, and I just drive back in. Whereas if I'm connected, and I'm here, and he's trying to drive into me, here, and I can be connected to him, I can be connected to the ground, but just this is just not gonna give you anywhere. So, when I move, I don't wanna lose connections, I wanna keep the same number of connections if possible. So right now, when we do the UPA, we're just gonna practice, and we'll get different angles as we move. First, when my feet are here, I don't lift very high. I want to get my feet here. That's why I don't like to do the arm bars with my legs away. Like here, I pull my feet in because now I have maximum break. Okay, so first my feet go in, and now watch all my students. Where are you strong?
Where you look at.
If I look here, I'm not going anywhere. So right now, even though we'll adjust later, we're going to go 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. My arms don't move, because watch my hips. People do this when they drill, but look, my hips barely lift. Right, so I just keep my arms in, so I can really get my hips lifted. So right now, how many connections do I have down here? 2. But what happens when I pick this leg up? I went to 1. So I lost power. Okay, at some point you have to pick this leg up. So watch, I bridge, and I drop my knee. So now here, if I bridge and he's pushing me a little bit, I have power. But if I pick this leg up, and that knee's off the ground. Here, but if I bridge here and I put this knee on the ground, I'm gonna have that extra power. We're not rolling to the side, 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. Okay, so again, I'm not doing this. First thing I do is I find out where I'm going. High bridge, hold it. Notice I'm on the toes, not like this. Here, now to practice, again, this is a drill. I'm gonna do a big step. Here. And then we can just sit right in, legs out. Here, look. Big bridge, knee, toes, pushing off those toes. Right here. Oop, oop, oop. Right. Let's give it a shot. Eins, zwei, drei.
Right under the bone. And down. Guck mal, wie sie schön und